So can I call this meeting to order at 6:38? And I'll begin with reading the remote script. And thank you, Paula, for going through all that to join us. I appreciate you.
Oh, no, thank you for your patience. This is where, most of my technology is self-taught, so I beg your pardon.
Not at all, not at all. We're happy to have you. Okay, we're calling the meeting to order at 6:38. This is an open meeting of the Town of Auburn Library Board of Trustees. It's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location due to the state of emergency due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will allow for public comment under agenda items. The public can join as we provided the telephone number and the web address on the agenda, and all supporting materials have been provided for members of this body. I did send out the adjusted minutes just before the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. As a preliminary matter, this is Mary DeCourcy, Chair of the Board of Trustees. Permit me to confirm that all meetings and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond affirmative. Matt Toth.
Yes.
Suzette Dowd is absent today on vacation. Jennifer Shea.
Yes.
Paula Melican.
Yes.
Town employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jean Collins, Library Director.
Yes.
Great. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. And we will begin with the first item on the agenda, which is the approval meetings from the June 9th, 2021 meeting. I know that I said that we might have the March meetings because that's the only minutes that we haven't had approved. But Suzette did those minutes and she said she'll have them in our next meeting. So has everybody received the BOT minutes that I sent just before this meeting that added Suzette's notes to Jennifer's notes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Can I have someone, whether we can approve those meeting minutes? Motion. There's one piece on the meeting minutes. The original one said June 7th and it was June 9th. So the date.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So that was the only adjustment that I saw.
That wouldn't have been in your packet, Matt, because I didn't have those at the time.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, okay.
yeah, thank you. I'd move to accept those.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda.
Can I vote on that, Mary?
So vote on all, do I need to have everybody vote?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Matt. Still on the rookie stage here. So when I call on you, can you tell me whether or not you agree in the accepting the minutes? Matt Toth, you gave the initial motion.
Yes.
Suzette Dowd is absent. Jennifer Shea?
Yes.
Paula Melican?
Yes.
And I know that you seconded, so thank you. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Okay, so we're moving to agenda item 3, trustees questions, new business, old business. Julie Jacobson was kind enough to forward the letter from the town council talking about the history, the formation, and the amendments related to the charter. So I was hoping that we could have a discussion of the steps to move forward in terms of, our impressions of the letter, sort of feedback. I want to hear from members. And then my question to the team is is there any interest in forming a subcommittee to develop a process to restore the role of the APL BOT? So can I call on, does anybody want to start?
I do want to make a motion, but I would be happy to.
Okay.
There is a lot of complicated material in there. There's no question
Mhm.
about that.
Mhm.
That's going to a good deal of work to go through all of that.
Mhm.
I'll wait in case anybody else has anything to say. I'll wait to make a motion that I'd like to make.
Okay. Okay. The only-
I second Matt's piece that there's a lot of information there, but I think the lead is buried, quite frankly, that a special, what is the term? Special act is the means in
Yes.
which it's been done, and that there are a plethora of times in which that has been done.
Mhm.
So it doesn't behoove the repetitive nature of a difficult and arduous process,
Mhm.
because there is that path, which is more straightforward than the others. And
Okay.
I would presume that would be the path that we would be discussing any discussions on as we move forward with or without the next steps.
So to clarify, that's on page 5. It's the third option. It's called the third way. I love that. To establish and amend a charter is the procedure under Massachusetts general law, which requires the act of the state legislator. And is that the correct, Jen, is what you're referring to?
Just reviewing it 1 second.
Yeah. Page 5.
Yeah, it's actually page 6, bullet point 1. Revision by means of a special act does not require the election of a charter commission, does not have all this ad hoc. Once a proposed special act charter change has been received, it can be approved, and then they listed like a dozen other ones that had followed that path.
Mhm.
I followed up online with some of that information. A lot of stuff I found online was the same thing that was in this report from town council. So all of that would be helpful. Can I make a motion, Mary?
Yes, please.
I move to allow the chair to appoint a coordinator to form a subcommittee to review, number 1, the July 1st, 2021 town council letter to the town manager
Mhm.
regarding the process for changing the town charter. 2, the town council's past letters to the town manager and the board of trustees
Mhm.
regarding the role of the trustees and the consequences of the charter on that role. Number 3, a letter sent by the board of trustees to the town manager regarding concerns about the role of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees. And 4, the MBLC trustee handbook. The
Mhm.
subcommittee would include at least 2 board of trustees members and then members of the community selected by the coordinator who could help in the undertaking. The goal of the subcommittee, it's really not part of the motion, so I won't. But what the goal of the subcommittee would be to prepare the special act to restore the role of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees and present it to the Board of Selectmen for consideration.
So the motion is to create a subcommittee where I could appoint members to participate in this process.
Right.
Okay, so that's Matt has a motion. Would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, can I do a quick roll call on that? So Matt Toth,
Yes.
Suzette Dowd is absent, Jennifer Shea,
Yes.
and Paula Melican?
Yes.
Excellent, okay, great. And I'd like to serve on that subcommittee.
I'd be happy to do that as well.
Okay, so can I make that part of the minutes that I'd like to volunteer to be on the subcommittee? And Matt Toth, you would like to
Well,
participate?
Mary, the motion was that you would appoint us, so you're
Okay.
appointing yourself. And I
Okay.
assume you're appointing Matt, who made the motion. So if you
Yeah.
tell us where that is, that we can go in that realm. There needs to be at least 2. And
Okay.
Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you know this a little bit more well-versed than I do. if there's 3 or more, those would just be publicized as if we were having our normal meeting, but it would be a
Right.
subcommittee meeting because we have more than 2 board of trustees together, correct?
Yeah. Correct. Similar to
Of that motion I read. But you know what? In order to be straightforward with us, I think we ought to post any subcommittee meeting that we have.
I agree.
Strategic plan.
I agree.
And have them public, and then that's that. There's nothing about it that anybody can question whether something's going on.
Okay. So, moving forward, I guess I have just a clarifying question in terms of that being, new in this position. When we're talking about posting, we post similarly to the agenda that we post for this particular meeting to make it public.
Yes.
Okay, and we request participation from members of the community. I know we did this in the strategic plan, but I was not the person that initiated.
This, I think, is if there are people that any of us know
Mm-hmm.
have some expertise in this, that we could invite them to join this committee.
Mm-hmm.
In case
Okay,
we do have that.
great.
And then, anybody can come to public meetings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay,
Mary, I'd be happy on that one to post those meetings.
okay.
We decide to have them.
Yeah, that would be great. I appreciate it.
Since we've approved Mary as appointing people, do we want to just set a deadline in which we'll have that all finalized? I know,
Yeah.
Matt, you volunteered. Suzette's obviously not here. Others may be, but announce the subcommittee and have that fully finalized, or is that necessary?
Well, I do think that probably Mary and I need to have a conversation about some dates, and
Yeah.
then tell everybody what those dates are, and whoever wants to come is fine, but it's not necessary. So
Right.
nobody.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification, Matt and Jen. Okay, and then I had the next question. Matt, I wanted to defer to you on the request from the town manager to provide definition and clarification of the policies for the BOT to avoid that BOT is expected to have input on non-operational library policies. I know that's considered number 1 on our town website. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, the only thing is, every time we have a conflict, it's always that there's something operational. So I was hoping that maybe the town manager can define for us what are the non-operational policies regarding the use of the library.
Okay.
Because, we had policies about when the library was going to be open, when there were days off, all those kinds of things. And I don't know where any of that stands today, but
Okay.
I think that clarification will be very helpful. I noticed it on the sheet that for the vacancy on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. So
Yeah. I'll follow
I
up
would
with you.
second that because a lot of the policies that we reviewed way back when, time eludes me, so I don't know when that was. They're all tied to an operational process, like a computer policy or noise and talking on a cell phone, for example, or the policies in the children's room or whatever they may be. There's also tied to it. So I think as much as there's a separation there is also a lot of connectivity that we have to be mindful of, and that our role was to help support and reinforce and adopt and promote these policies and crafted them with Jean when we reviewed them. But we've got to make sure that you're right, as you just said, Matt, that there's a clear delineation between policies that may focus solely on things outside of the current board purview, and then there are those that the board has strong involvement in. And I think Julie as a town manager needs to help delineate that so we can collectively continue to support all of them in the best means for the library and the town.
fair enough.
Long-winded
Well
way
said.
to say, awesome suggestion. I appreciate it. Thank you, Matt.
So Matt, do I understand that that's your motion and Jen is seconding that motion? Is that correct?
What do you mean?
Your request of the town manager to clarify operation versus non-operational?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, no trouble. And Jen, did I understand you to be seconding that motion?
Yes.
Okay, so members, I'm going to just again run through the list. Forgive me about the redundancy, but Matt Toth,
Yes.
Suzette Dowd is absent. Jennifer Shea,
Yes.
Paula Melican,
Yes,
and I support that as well. Thank you. And thank you both for breaking that down. The next item on the agenda is the board vacancy. At the request of the board, I reached out to Julie Jacobson to request what the specifics were related to how the vacancy has been advertised and whether there was a deadline for application. And she was kind enough to inform me that she advertised the vacancy on ACTV, social media, and the superintendent's distribution list, requesting applications and resumes by, mine is cut off, I think it's July 23rd, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. And so that's the application process. The Board of Selectmen, she also informed me, would like to interview candidates with us as part of a joint interview process. And vote on their, would like to vote on their process in their July 12th meeting, but they invited us, if we choose to, if we're in agreement, their meeting proposal dates that they had for the interviews would be August 9th or September 9th. So I'm opening that up for discussion on the board.
what days of
I'm
the week
happy
are
to
those?
continue that process. Oh, sorry. Go, Paula.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jennifer. Just what days of the week are both those dates?
The
I
9th
believe,
is a Monday, and then August, and September is a Thursday.
okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Jennifer.
Because I just double checked those. I may be available on the 9th of September, but could make August work.
Okay.
I know that they've done this in the past for open vacancies with the Board of Trustees, so I don't foresee we'd have any issue carrying on the same processes that have been done in the past. So if it matters that I'm involved or we need a certain number of people, the 9th of August would be my preferred date.
Okay,
The 9th
great.
September?
Sorry, Matt.
August.
Oh,
August 9th. August 9th, which is a Monday. So feedback from the board, Matt?
I'm fine.
You're fine. Would that date be okay for you?
You know, what's interesting, we did it this way a couple times, and then the last time we interviewed ourselves and then presented a person to the selectmen, but it doesn't really matter to me. I don't care. This way it'll all be done in one night.
Okay. Do you have a preference for August versus September, Matt?
No, August is fine.
Okay. Paula?
What is the day of the week for September 9th, please?
I
Thursday.
believe Thursday. And August 9th is
Thursday.
Monday, we said, right?
Yep,
Correct.
yep, I heard the Monday. Okay, either of those are fine for me.
Okay.
No
So we-
conflicts.
Okay, great. And I can make either one. So I would prefer the August 9th sooner than later. And I will reach out to Suzette as well.
When is
any other
Suzette back?
She's actually on vacation this week in the Cape. She was kind enough
So
to
she'll be
forward
back
me
to
those
you.
notes. Sorry, will she be back for August 9th? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she
Now,
will.
Board of Selectmen meetings are typically start at 7, correct?
That's correct.
Would we want to discuss the possibility of moving our 8/4, currently first Wednesday of the month, to precede the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 9th? So we're not meeting within 4 days? Or do we want to keep
Good
it as
idea.
we currently,
Yeah.
that might also be near our end, but I just thought since we're talking about August now and it's so close, it was worth bringing up.
Okay,
Sure.
I want to hear, do I understand do you mean bypass our August 4th and and have the joint meeting as our Board of Trustees meeting?
No, I was saying have a meeting preceding the joint meeting
Okay.
for the library
Okay.
board of trustees, say like at 6, or have a short half-hour one at 6:30 on the 9th in lieu of the 4th, or did we want to keep the 4th, knowing we're going to tell the Board of Selectmen we can participate on the 9th in their meeting for the vacancy?
Okay.
I think a 6 o'clock meeting before, whatever anybody wants to do. 6 o'clock before that is fine with me.
Right. I think what Jen was saying is if we signed on at 6:30 and then we joined the selectmen meeting at 7 p.m. Do I understand you correctly, Jen?
I'm just saying, do we meet on the 4th of August and the 9th, or do we just do it on the 9th? I
think
agree with that. It could be at 6 or it could be at 6:30 on the
Okay.
9th.
Okay.
Prior to the Board of Selectmen meeting, because I bet, although I don't know, they're probably meeting where Chris is right now in town hall in person, so we
Mhm.
might just request another room and be there for that.
That
I don't know
sounds
if they're virtual or not. We'd have to find all that out.
great. Great. I have reached out to the town manager about the preference of members to either be present or virtually call in. And I believe that we still have we still are allowed to have virtual people call in. But I think moving forward, then we may have some people that join us virtually and the rest of us might be a live body. But I'm all for Jen's proposal that we meet the same night and just meet before the Board of Selectmen so that we're sort of all on the same page and we're updated.
Yeah,
So do
I
we
think
want
it's
to
a great
try
idea.
for 6, 6:30, 6:15?
Yep, anytime is fine with me.
What do you say, Matt?
6 is fine. Whatever you want to do is fine.
Okay, so let's do 6. We'll meet at 6. The next meeting will be August 9th at 6, and then we will join the Board of Selectmen at 7. Thank you, team. Anybody else have any commentary on that? Okay. The other piece was, sorry. The other question was, I'm sorry, lost my spot.
Friends.
All right. So thank you. Well, I did reach out regarding in-person or virtual. Do people have a preference moving forward from September on, whether we are in-person, virtual, or a mixture of both?
I
I'd like-
prefer in person.
Yeah.
And I'd like a mixture of both if possible.
Okay. Jen, do you
I
have any?
support Matt's piece. Flexibility is key.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to knock anybody out if they prefer virtual. So yes, I'll agree with you too on that, you three.
I'm in the same mindset as well. Thank you, everybody. Okay, the next item on the
To your point, though, I think at some point there will have people in person. I think it's just nice to know that we're not beholden to one or the other. If something comes up, someone's late, whatever the case is, there's flexibilities with both.
I agree. I'm in complete agreement. The next piece is Friends, 501c3. Do we want to have, well, we can discuss the meeting space, what the role will be. Matt, do you want to take over there, and whether we need to have any sort of subcommittee to find the process?
No, I did have a conversation with Phil Shea, and it was really a shame. He had all the material in. 3 months after all the material in, we got it all back. It came to the library and then to Paula, and then I got it over to Phil Shea. They decided that they didn't want anything in paper. They wanted it all electronic.
Okay.
I know. So Phil, was very good about that and very calm about it all. He took the packet, and some of it was easy to transfer into the electronic. Other parts of it were much more complicated. He was able to use the checking account and do that electronically because they wanted $600 to review it. And, we're just waiting now to hear from them.
Okay.
What I was going to do is I wanted to do the same thing as we did on the charter, but I wanted to make a motion to allow the chair to appoint a coordinator to form a subcommittee to help in the process of supporting the reinstatement of an independently functioning Auburn Public Library Friends.
Mhm.
The issues to be considered would be informed by the bylaws approved in May 2020. And the need for a space that was discussed with the town manager during the strategic planning discussion.
Mhm.
And the subcommittee would include at least 2 board members and members of the community as selected by the coordinator who could help in that undertaking.
Mhm.
So I would like to suggest Suzette really direct
You
that.
know, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because she actually, when she sent me the minutes and we reviewed the agenda, she said that she'd like to be a member of that committee. She didn't say that she wanted to chair, but I'm comfortable appointing her as chair. Would anybody else like to participate in that subcommittee?
So I think we need to motion for it first. So I
Okay.
second Matt's motion.
Okay. Okay, members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Matt Toth,
Yes?
Suzette, absent. Jennifer Shea,
Yes.
Paula Melican,
Yes.
and I support it as well. Any other commentary on that matter before we move to the next agenda item?
I just really do hope that those issues that we talked about with the town manager have been thought about, and that maybe we were in a position that they'd be able to have some space to be able to do their work.
Mhm.
That's the book sales and those kinds of things.
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, I know that we're at least months, probably a couple months away, but at least the things would be in order.
I agree. So we'll move to, I'm sorry, went out of order with the future meetings. I lost my spot on my own agenda. Director's report. Jean, would you like to report?
1 second.
Okay, sure.
All right, so you should all have copies. Some of these things are things that I had, talked about before, so I'm just kind of giving you some updates. We have done a tremendous amount of weeding. Weeding is not deleting. It's a whole lot of process, different things that you have to go through. I would say that if you have to hire an outside company after having it been this long before it's done, you pay at least $30,000 to do it. You're making great progress. And it would assume that it would take a year or so. So it's not going to take us a year because we're very highly coordinated and we're really getting through it and making a very big difference. But it is a tremendous amount of work. So make no mistake about that. But nice, the children's room has got a significant sort of refresh feeling to it. We've got now new bookends, which are vastly superior to the old scrape ones on the middle shelf type of thing. They look better, they're safer because you can pinch your fingers in the other ones. So it's just one thing, but it's been a lot of work, but we're doing a lot, and the patrons very much notice it, and there's a lot of books circulating out of the children's room. As sort of an example, the Vox books, they're routinely 1/3 of those books are in circulation at all times. That's a very big number for a specific format. The second section is the hours of operation, which I discussed last time, and this has now been publicized. I've not had any comments. One person asked me which evening. I said Thursday. He wasn't even an Auburn resident. He said, that's fine. That's when I'll, start coming on Thursday evening. It wasn't an issue at all. And I didn't hear any other complaints. People ask, but that's not the same as a complaint.
Right.
Between 5 and 6 o'clock, we're lucky if there's 2 people in the library. So it's really not inconveniencing anybody. Then after that, it's kind of a ghost town. So that's the right decision for now. Moving forward, our toddler programs, this is the one that we started with, that we've been able to sustain that every week. Every week it's filled to capacity with people from out of town as well. It's going very well. We didn't want to pack it before. We didn't take registrations. It was a walk-in. But we want to be very conscious of numbers now, especially children that haven't been vaccinated. And it's a much more manageable size now anyways. We still average 34 people there every week between 10 and 10:30. That's a lot in the children's room, but that's also going well. A lot of repeat people. Very pleased with the program. We're working on some other ones. We're sort of just working up to age of 3, then probably 3 to 5, and then 5 and older. It's an awful lot. Before the pandemic, I had a whole year planned out and all that sort of went away. So it's really starting over. I'm also finding a lot of supplies that we need are no longer available, or they've not doubled in cost, but they're more expensive. So that's something that I've got to also keep an eye on as well. The creation stations, we did have our first one outside in the, there are some pictures of that in the newsletter that I sent you. We lucked out, got a great day. And then we had a couple others on those really hot days, then we had them inside. And people stayed an average of 2 hours. What was kind of nice because of the way our library is set up is kids would be in the creation stations, then they'd go in the children's room and they'd read books and they'd make friends, and then they'd go back to creation stations again. So it worked really, really well. It was a lot of work because we set up literally about a dozen different stations. But very much worth it. Moving forward, our summer reading program will kick off on Saturday. It will be 4 weeks long. As you can see, it's about exploring your world. So we're doing animals, oceans, space, and music. So each week has that theme, and we will do as much as we can. But we'll also have the brag tags and the beads and so forth, which I'm crossing my fingers because they aren't in yet. I did order them, and I'm hoping they get in by Saturday. And if not, we'll go with what we have, and then we'll fill in later.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Also, the summer camp series, I've just confirmed that with Heather. This is the 3rd year we'll be doing that. So we did set the dates. Those are generally between ages 3 and 6. That's paid for by the Cultural Council. It's a partnership. We always read stories before it. We provide takeaways and crafts and things, and Heather does the actual program. She does a wonderful job. So hopefully we'll get a good turnout for that. Some additional programs that I have here that I've been working on. I don't know if I have it on here. Oh, I do. So the virtual one on avocados, which will be a little bit different. So we're actually going to, this presenter we've had many times, she does cooking programs. She no longer does any in-house. She does them all virtually. So honestly, the best thing about her cooking programs was you got to eat after, and it was always really delicious. So, but it seems to be working for her. So this time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to stream it into the Merriam Room on our large screen TV. So anybody who wants to come to the library and watch it and socialize a little bit can do that. If they prefer to stay at home, I will send the link and they can log in at home. So that's a Thursday evening. That's the first Thursday we're open. I have no idea if people are ready or sick of virtual programs. No idea, but you don't know unless you try. And I'm very interested in it because I don't know what to do with avocados. So that should be hopefully an interesting program. Others, the online book club, working towards that is kind of a lot of work to set it up. They did ask me to be on their advisory committee. We need to have a name and all those kinds of things. So that's moving forward with that. Also, I've spoken with some teens about a teen advisory group, and I'm very optimistic about this taking shape over the summer.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes. I'm meeting with them next week. Some others seem to be interested. You know, teens' lives change from week to week, so you never really know, but you don't know unless you try. So
That's right.
a lot that I would really, really like to have their voice about a lot of things, collection development. I talked to the IT director about what we can do about bandwidth for putting in some much pricier computers in the teen area, and that's a distinct possibility. So I want to know from them, what do they want? Maybe that's not what they want. So again, I'll be meeting with them and we'll, take it from there.
Great.
So the library card wallet app, the reason that's highlighted, that doesn't mean anything except I did that when I wrote it, so I'd remember to send you the attachment, and I forgot to take the highlighting out. So in case you're wondering what that means, that's all it is. So I've had We've offered it to people. We've helped them download it. So we'll see how it goes. It's sort of brand new. This was all ready to go in March, just before the pandemic. We were all ready to go with it, and then everything shut down. So it's kind of a reboot for that. I have it on mine. Works fine.
I can tell you it works.
Okay. So we're hoping people do adopt it. We don't really want to touch the cards. And they do forget their cards, and if it's in your phone, then, but if they don't, that's okay too. I sent you the town newsletter, copy of it, which has not been disseminated yet. So that was just an early version of the one that I sent to the town manager's office. And the last thing about donations, the donations thing, we have people asking us all the time, so do other libraries. It's just not an easy answer. We would like to accept some donations, but we cannot have people dropping off large volumes of donations. We have zero space. So I am considering, and I did have the foyer case painted on the left when you walk in. It's painted white inside now, and I bought some special racks using state aid money. So when maybe in a couple weeks, it's still labor intensive. We're still short staffed. We are on our feet 20, every minute of every day, but people want to donate their books. I have a feeling we're going to get flooded because a lot of people bought books during the pandemic, and of course they're like new and they don't want to toss them, and I get that, and they can't find any place to put them. Nobody can, not even libraries. So I'm thinking that I may be able to accept some on a limited basis, by appointment. They can make an appointment. If the appointment times are filled up for 1 week, then they'll have to make an appointment for another week. We can only accept what we can put out immediately. And if people don't purchase them, then we can't keep it going. So that's the best I can do. I know it's a friends thing, but obviously we don't mind doing it. It's just very much a space issue, and also keeping up with it. When you go through donations, a lot of times, there's a lot of things you have to throw away. Things come through with cat urine, with animal hair in them, with food on them. You really have to go through them. So it's not just a take it out of the bag and put it on the shelf thing. And we don't know if people will purchase them. Then if they do, then we'll keep it running, and we'll be able to accept as much as we can put out. So unfortunately, that's the most I can do now. And I'm not quite ready to do it. I just make sure we can maintain it once I offer that. And that also means keeping track of appointments when people drop them off. No textbooks, make sure there's a lot to it. And everybody wants to donate their National Geographics, and you have to tell them very gently that, there's not a market for those either. So anyway, that's where we're at with the donations. It has been on my mind. People want to donate. There's only so much we can do.
Is the garage space completely filled?
It is. We have a lot of PPE materials in there now. We have a lot of stanchions. We have a lot of book trucks that we sometimes bring out there. Then we have to bring them up because we need them. There is, and we cleaned out the whole garage about 2 months ago, maybe a little less. Literally went out there, cleaned it out, swept it out, only kept what we had to keep, and it's just full. There's just, there's a lot of things that we got through the CARES Act extension, thinking that we were going to be virtual, much longer, throughout the summer. I mean, we use everything, but there's just no storage. So it is pretty full. It's very full.
I'm thrilled to hear. I was going to ask you with the avocado presentation whether there would be an opportunity for streaming. I think that's great. Will that be offered in other sort of virtual events? Because I think it's a great way to integrate people at home and people who would choose to come to the library.
Yeah, most presenters will not allow that. In fact, they don't allow recording or anything. I don't blame them. It's their intellectual property. So
Right.
She doesn't want to come in person anymore. So at first she wanted to even take all the registration lists. And I said, no, we don't share a registration list. It's got to go through me. And so she was fine with that. There's still a lot of technology involved in this. So to my knowledge, most of the programs that we're going to have, they really need to be in-house now. People don't really want to do virtual anymore. Everybody's been in front of screens for so long. So we'll see how this one goes. It's a different kind. I'm the one who, she hadn't done this program before. I asked her to create one on avocados. So
Great.
how it goes.
I think I might participate because I need to learn about how to prepare avocados as well. Any other
Just a
comments,
couple
Mary?
questions.
Sure, go ahead.
One, I do think hosting something virtually is not recording it. So I
Right.
think that we should be being mindful of having homebound or limitations on individuals for activities that can be done in a duplicative way as we move forward. I wholeheartedly recognize the virtual world for those of us who can get out and about and are comfortable doing that is getting more and more tiresome, but I don't think we should just completely 180 back to that the
Right.
benefit of the pandemic has given us opportunities to see the value of virtual. So I would just encourage that no matter what session comes, that we continue to address that and don't just take someone's face value. I don't want it to be recorded as a piece because streaming is not recording it and they should have options. To Matt's comment on the garage, I just want to put this out here. Obviously, the Center Drury Square revitalization piece is in works, is a hazard to the roads at the moment, but is in works, and that will obviously involve the expansion and changes to the library. If we are already at capacity with storage and functionality now, have conversations taken place, or are they going to take place in the near future for storage needs that you're going to need to have as this is built in the additions and changes and updates are happening? And then also long term, so we do have space, back to the Friends piece as well, that like there is a home for people who are supporting this, who are community members. So I just want to make sure we don't forget to bring that up, or if you haven't had a conversation on your radar, that we see what options might be available in town for some kind of designated library material storage space, eminently for the renovation, but also long-term, so we can have that. And then third, because of the strategic plans discussion around youth survey and development, all of that stuff, I'm curious if it's should have your teen advisory group with the Board of Trustees, as we were part of those surveys with Sage Consulting and support in that realm. Any advisory group is kind of enroll with the Board of Trustees, and that maybe that there should be some support or a member participating to help have that perspective too, so we can continue to bring that back as a board member experience to the broader processes and engage what that looks like versus just a small one-off that may not give the full perspective, because it would be your experiences or whoever in the library staff is working with that advisory group, or maybe we invite the advisory group to a board meeting to talk to us. I just think we need to make sure that that's really a two-way street in light of all of the work that was done with the strategic plan. That's all. I know that was a lot, so sorry.
Jen,
Well, as I said, this is in the very, very early stages. It may not even float. It's very early stages. I think I want to see where they want to go with it. They may be all gun ho and never show up. So, to layer a lot of things on here at this point, I understand your point, and certainly I'd keep that into consideration. But it's, and teens they're different people 6 months from where they are. So there's a lot involved, and it may not fly. So, or it might be.
I understand that it's still in the works. I just wanted to make sure that the board was involved in that process, because it's great to have that conversation, especially in light of the strategic plan. I'm not saying you were discrediting us. I just think it's good to continue to remember and not just assume because a stereotype of a teen is that they may engage and then disengage or whatever prevents us from continuing to bring up the collaborative nature we're trying to build here. That was all.
Yeah.
We did have about 12 or 15 kids that were willing to be part of a focus group, and we ought to at least share those names.
Right.
Find those names so that kids who indicated some interest might be contacted.
I agree. I just had another question related to that. I'm just very interested, as well as in terms of being on the chair of the Board of Trustees, but also my role in the Culture Committee. We've been talking about ways that we can increase participation of children and youth with disabilities in programming. We brought it up at our last meeting, like, what can we do? How can we support grants to include people with disabilities? So I'm curious, Jean, is there any strategy that you have as the director in terms of when you advertise activities to sort of, whether it's the language of it or just letting people know that they're inclusive opportunities? Any feedback on that?
I'm not sure I understand your whole question, but
So I guess,
if people have sometimes special needs children or whomever, we are always accommodating to that. We do sometimes have people come in wheelchairs. We're all ADA compliant, so any of those things. Yes, we've had people using sign language, so there's never been, we accommodate everything that is brought to our attention.
Great. Just to clarify my question, I guess my question was, how do you communicate that to the public, that it's a safe and inclusive environment for all kids?
I want to add to Mary's question, Jean. I think it's more not necessarily like safe and inclusive, but just like, here's an alternative if you need this. I think that's where we were kind of going, that someone who maybe is in need of additional support or is overly stimulated in large crowds and can't figure that out may not be comfortable bringing that to your attention in some other way. So do we say we have virtual so you can still experience this, or we have X, Y, and Z so that you can get here? Because obviously, yes, we know the basics that the library and all you're doing is meeting all the appropriate ADA requirements. Just in light of the pandemic, selling that more in our communications, I think, is Mary's actual question.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And I think that could be looked at as moving forward with the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
To your point about offering both for having
Yeah.
presenters, I would be paying a presenter for 2 programs. So that really has to be considered.
If you're live streaming something, you're not paying for 2 programs.
Right.
They
right.
That would be bad negotiation with a person coming.
They do not allow live streaming of their programs, and I completely support that, their rights in that. We don't live stream our own programs, and we won't. And then there's a privacy issue if you're seeing anybody in the audience. I know one director who almost got sued because somebody did that, and their child ended up on Facebook. So I'm very, very careful with
But
that.
all of that is pre-pandemic, Jean, in a world in which the virtual nature is coming out and we have to be more flexible and adaptable. So for you to say emphatically, we will not be live streaming events that the library does, that is a disservice to our community, and we need to be open to thinking through different ways of doing
This isn't on the agenda. I was just trying to be upfront and be inclusive and share some information, and it turned into this whole thing that I think this isn't the right time to have this discussion.
Okay. Well, you know, Jean, I think the original part of the question came from me, which is, because I'm very involved in the community and I'm very interested in disability activism, my question sort of came from when you talked about a teen advisory. How do we ensure that we're reaching out in scaffolding to make sure that people feel that they're welcome? And that would, to clarify my question, going back to what Jennifer was stating, I think that the issue that could be objected to is the recording piece, period. I was a team chair of special education. We would have to say at the beginning of every meeting, this is not being recorded. Nobody's being recorded. And we could make the accommodations in the setting so that nobody other than the presenter is being, is the person that's being videoed. So again, in the spirit of inclusion, diversity, inclusion, and acceptance, I just think every effort that we can make to let people know that their children or their teens are welcome is something that I support completely. And Jennifer's comments, I think, is about extending that inclusion to people who are not able to be present physically.
And this is all on the agenda, Jean. This is part of your director's report that we're responding to engagements on. So having this discussion is the right time to have it now. I can understand maybe you feel like it came out of nowhere, but it's it's a post-pandemic world where we're now adapting to how do we manage both.
Well
And
aware
people
of
are
that.
seeing that, and we need to be open to those conversations and not just immediately go back to the old way that we've been doing things, because
Mhm.
people do appreciate the duality of that.
I agree. Completely agree.
You
I
know,
agree. And sorry, Matt. And Jen, I just want to thank you very much for articulating that because, again, going back to diversity and inclusion, it's imperative that we don't make attending a conference a barrier to people that might not be able to attend. So thank you for those comments. Go ahead, Matt.
You know, this is just so endemic of what we go through every meeting.
Yeah,
You having that on the list about this teen advisory was a wonderful thing.
yes, it is.
You talk about it and all of a sudden it turns into a big conflict because somebody has an idea that's inconsistent with whatever your idea was. I don't know how this happens all the time. It's unfortunate because I thought that was a really good, proactive, strategic plan kind of event. And all of a sudden it becomes contentious. I don't
Yeah.
get it.
And that was my goal. I was just trying to say, hey, can we get involved? This is great. I was supporting these initiatives and trying to throw some suggestions out there for all of them. Donation space. How do we get the board involved in the strategic plan level with this? I mean, these are great initiatives, and
Yes.
there's been great events at the libraries happening. This is not saying that there's not. It's just
Right.
a dialogue to have the discussion of how we can keep doing things and doing them really well.
Right. Right. And I just want to add to that, just removing barriers is key to enhancing and enriching our community to include people with disabilities. So whether the barrier is to be there, whether it's to be a ramp, whether it's some, as you mentioned, ASL, having people that are, I guess from a parent point of view, going back to Jen's point earlier, if an individual is very reactionary to certain stimuli, it's imperative to the parent to know that it's a safe place. So my question was about how do we articulate in our, I don't know if we say that how we publicize activities to create sort of an inclusive language to encourage families to know that they can participate. The second part of my comments was the fact that, my inquiry to the Auburn Cultural Committee was, how can we as a cultural committee really invest in more inclusive activities so that we have, again, a community that represents the real community. So it's just something I'm very passionate about. And I didn't intend to offend anyone by bringing that up. Paula, did you have something that you wanted to add? I'm glad to see I see you now. No? Okay. I wasn't sure if you lit up.
There's two Paulas. We got one frozen and one black screen. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if we say that how we publish create sort of the second, the virtual committee more, and again, so, Paula, did you? No.
Sorry, you're getting feedback.
There's two Paulas.
I know.
I think you have to shut off one of your microphones, Paula. Sorry.
Is that better?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I can't hear you guys any longer, but I'm just spending my time trying to figure out how to get on. Sorry.
Well, we're working on that. Just, Jen, I will send you a copy of those two motions. I'll try to do it as fast. You're too fast sometimes, so I'll try to do it as soon as we're finished.
No rush. Whenever you had them, I just could see that you had some good verbiage there, and I wanted to make sure I captured it fully since they're important ones.
Good.
So before we move to end the meeting, I just wanted to make sure, Paula, that you were included if you had anything that you wanted to add.
And we still have the bill schedule, Mary.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to say no. If I'm going to take that as a no, Paula. So go ahead, Jean. I'm sorry. Go ahead with the bill schedule.
You're on mute.
I am.
Gee,
Anybody have any questions about anything on the bill schedule? This is end of year bill schedule. Let's start with that.
I had something. I just have to find it.
Mary, can you mute Paula?
I think the issue is not, Paula has two. Okay. The feedback happens when there's two digital devices at the same time that have the microphones on.
I'll stop fooling around.
I didn't ask for copies of this, and now I'm trying to work it on my iPad, and I can't remember what had a question. It wasn't a big deal anyway.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And this is the end of the year?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Jean about the bill schedule? No? Okay. So, just want to remind everyone what we agreed upon is that the next meeting would be August 9th at 6 p.m. with the intention of being able to meet next day before the Board of Select meeting and then to join the Board of Selectmen at 7 p.m. I am going to follow through with a request to the town manager about whether we can have a room and so that we can meet at the same time and that we can have virtual access for any members that are not able to physically attend that meeting so that they could participate. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add for me to, as long as I'm reaching out to the town manager? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make one comment, Matt. If you find out what you wanted to ask me about the bill schedule, you could just shoot me an email and I'd be happy to send it out to everybody. I don't know what you have a question about.
I can't find it either, so it mustn't have been overwhelming, whatever it was.
Jean, thank you for that. Appreciate you. Does anybody have anything else before we motion to end the meeting?
I'll motion to end.
Okay, we're ending the meeting at 7:35. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. And I support that as well. Do I need to vote, Matt, on everybody or just the two motions to end the meeting? I can't remember.
I don't think on the adjourn. I never did. I don't know.
Okay. Still in the learning process. Thank you all for being patient with me as I learn. I'm a lifelong learner in the real sense of the word. So we'll end this meeting at 6:30. What did I say? 6:36? 6:36, and I'll send out the agenda for the August 9th meeting prior to that.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Jean.
Bye.